779. Here's another one that is interesting. This one, by the way, this is the first initiative petition that you will see on your ballot. State question 779 increases the state sales tax by 1% with revenues directed to common education, career tech, and higher education. It raises the minimum teacher salary by $5,000 per year. It also forbids the legislature from reducing appropriations to education based on the FY 2017 budget, which is current fiscal year. What do supporters say? Oklahoma teachers are underpaid, which has caused many would-be teachers to seek employment elsewhere or select a different profession. This measure is the only way to adequately fund education in Oklahoma, provide raises for teachers, and improve student preparedness. Opponents say, this will give Oklahoma the highest sales tax rates in the nation, making this a substantial regressive tax disproportionately impacting those with low incomes. The proposal will unnecessarily restrict the legislature when budgeting. The proposal could inhibit cities across the state from utilizing their own sales tax increase for municipal projects.
Could you explain that second opponent?
The question is explain the second what opponents say. This proposal will unnecessarily restrict the legislature when budgeting. We'll go back to this original, or kind of the layman's terms of what the actual state question does. At the very bottom, it also forbids the legislature from reducing appropriations to education based on the FY 2017 budget. It's called supplanting language. And basically what that does is that says that the Oklahoma legislature, no matter how much they want to decrease, let's say, for example, and we can point to even this year, that there is a $1.3 billion budget shortfall. And it's been well documented statewide. If this were to be in place, that $1.3 billion would not have come from education no matter what. So the issues like Department of Human Services, the issues like Department of Corrections, everything outside of the realm of higher education, career tech, and common education would have to actually take the entire brunt of the reduction in the state budget. So moving forward, let's say in 2018, there's a $1 billion shortfall. That $1 billion cannot come from career tech, higher ed, and common education, which makes up approximately 52 to 53% of our entire appropriated state budget. Yes. Hold on one second. Yes. A few things. The shortfalls probably stem from the reduction in our gross production tax, the reduction in terms of our income tax, probably based around the energy production of the state of Oklahoma, and a slowing down of our economy from a jobs and an increase in jobs perspective. Basically, during the time frame of 2004 to 2007, we saw tremendous increases because natural gas was extremely high at the time. I believe there was a time where natural gas actually was at $15. So we saw a tremendous increase quickly. But since that time, there's been a slowing down of the economy. But then there was also an increase of the economy. It's primarily due to the volatile prices of oil and natural gas.
What you're saying then is the state has not made corrections in their spending.
So the question is refer to page 2. The question is they have not made corrections to their spending. I would have to say that every legislature has to look at the money that they have in front of them and to make sure that they are making the correct decisions. But spending has not reduced since 2000. I think in 2004, when I was first elected, the overall budget was somewhere in the vicinity of $5.4 billion, and today it's somewhere in the vicinity of $6.8.
Well, wasn't it not very long that there was a big thing about the governor saying that the budget was balanced and all this kind of stuff was going on?
And the budget is balanced. But the issue is that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a reduction in the budget, or that they have actually taken a look at efficiencies within the budget. But the budget is always, it has to be balanced by our Constitution. So when,
Well, if the budget's balanced, then how can there, if you're not spending more than you're taking in and the budget is balanced, how can there be a shortfall? I mean, I'm just a common, ordinary person.
Sure.
I'm just wondering,
So
how does this work? I'd like to do it at my house.
Fair. So basically what happens is we go off of estimates. The Oklahoma legislature funds off of estimates. So each year, the Board of Equalization, and we're getting into the weeds a little bit now, but the Board of Equalization will certify a certain number for the Oklahoma legislature to actually appropriate. If that number is incorrect, then there is a quote-unquote budget shortfall. If it is above because we've seen additional growth, thank you. If it's above because we've seen additional growth, then there will be a budget increase or
What the
Correct.
spending's going to be.
not what the spending's
Yeah.
going to be, and what the amount that they will be able to spend. Correct. That's based on the Board of Equalization certification in December.
And my next question, right quick, is
Sure.
I thought it talked about the only way to fund education. I thought there was something to do with some kind of lotteries a while back that was going to fund the education. What happened? I mean, I don't keep up with all this. That's why I'm asking.
Sure. Great questions. In 2004, the Oklahoma people decided to endorse the lottery and to bring that into our state. It did raise money, and all those monies do go to education. But again, let me reiterate, I don't know specifically what the lottery is bringing in today, but I remember from a few years ago what it's bringing in. And I will tell you the overall spending on common education alone. That's $2.3 billion. The lottery money brings in somewhere between, since the conception or the beginning of it, somewhere between $35 and $100 million. So you're talking about a small amount of money relatively to the overall budget, if that makes sense.
So what's being done to put a cap on educational spending? And the reason I'm saying this is because I come from, you had a pencil, you had a ruler, and you had some paste. And so we got a pretty good education. So what's the problem with putting a cap on this education spending? What's being done to stop so much of this spending?
Based on, and I will refer back to this, and this kind of talks you through some of it. The answer, I don't believe that there's anything that's being done specifically to hinder spending in terms of educational spending. They have not seen a growth, which is they will make the argument, and I'm trying to be fair to both sides. Those within the education system will make the argument that cost of goods have gone up, but they have not seen an increase in their overall state spending, which is why we have not seen an increase in teacher pay or an increase in the amounts of money that are going to general appropriation from schools.
What about the the potential impact on especially small municipalities throughout Oklahoma, which live on sales tax? We're the only state in the country where municipalities do not get anything like property tax, ad valorem tax, that the main revenue streams are sales tax. And with this increase, what's the potential impact on those, especially small towns, which need this for increasing and improving quality of life, those kinds of things that are crucial for our citizens?
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Mayor. I would say that is one of the things that opponents to this state question specifically focus on. And you're correct that for the most part, I mean, there are other funding sources for cities, but the majority of those funds come from sales tax. If you increase it by 1 penny, what is, if I might ask, what is the sales tax for the city of Guthrie? 8 3/4. So that would almost bring you to almost 10 pennies on the dollar, or 10%. That would probably, we know for a fact that we have high sales tax in Oklahoma now. What opponents do say is that if you increase that by 1 penny and you do raise us so much, especially in areas where we are close to Kansas, Texas, Arkansas, New Mexico, Colorado, all the states that actually are bordering, there's going to be a cooling effect in terms of their ability to be able to compete. At the same time, there are a lot of things that you here in the city of Guthrie do fund for the specific programs that you have in place. And it could make it more difficult even into the future to actually pass the extensions of those sales tax. And that's probably the greatest argument against the passage of 779, apologize, as we move forward. Public safety, economic development, and of course, at the chamber we are very involved and very supportive of economic development statewide, and those many times are supported by that local sales tax.
Would you
Yes.
present as well-spoken of an argument for 779 as you did against 779?
Sure. So basically, and as a former legislator, 779 is extremely important for teachers. Teachers and our retention of teachers. If you look at where they're going and some of the people who are leaving the profession, especially into other professions or other states, this is something that I think is extremely important. It also contributes to the economies of our higher education facilities and people, because higher education, of course, as you look at higher education and how that affects our economy in general, that is extremely important to our state, and making sure that we have those higher ed degrees. I know that the governor has actually made that one of her focuses as she's continued in her second term as governor. And then career tech. I can't say enough about career tech. Whenever I was a legislator in Enid, Autry Technology Center was one of the best programs that we had putting forward from an economic development standpoint as well.
Okay, approximately how many teaching jobs are open today as we speak during this school year?
Quite a few, and the question was, is there a lot of teachers' jobs that are actually open? The answer is yes, and I think that as we move forward, the last time, and I'll continue to talk about how the legislature has failed to actually address this issue. The last time I believe a $3,000 pay increase actually occurred was in 2007. That being said, as I talk well about it, I have to also talk the other side. At the same time, I think that there are some that are saying that you could address some of the funding inequities in other ways rather than a sales tax. And I think that that's kind of the debate that's spurring around 779. Yes, sir. Hold on one second.
Oh, our teachers do need a raise. I understand that. My question would be, if this would pass, how would it be distributed proportionally? It would be based upon tenure?
No, this is 5,000 across the board pay increase based on the amount of money that your local school district submits to the Board of Education every May and June. Not every school district, and I don't know what Guthrie does, but not every school district pays the state minimum. If you pay above the state minimum, you actually submit. The state minimum is 33.8 or something along those lines. So if you have additional money and you want to actually increase your minimum for your teacher, you can do so in an application and a process by which you submit that to the Board of Education. This would be an across-the-board $5,000 increase to every teacher. And it would also be a certain amount of money going to general appropriations or appropriations for higher education, and then a significantly smaller amount going to career tech.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of quick questions. Did I hear correctly that you made the observation that the shortfall in revenue is due to the downturn in the energy sector?
That is definitely part of it. It's been well documented that is part of the reason why there's a little bit of a downturn. Anytime the oil and natural gas prices go down, it does tend to affect those that are areas specifically that are heavily involved in that activity. I mean, I used to represent Enid, which had the large increases in the 2007 to 2014 sector from an energy perspective, as well as all the people who were receiving royalty checks in and around the area as well.
Okay, I think then, based upon that reality, I think that bodes or speaks more to the fact that our economy is a lack of diversification therein. And having grown up in the unemployment lines in Michigan during the late 70s and early 80s,
Yep.
I think that's an issue that we need to address. And furthermore, I don't think we have an unemployment problem in Oklahoma. Matter of fact, it's very low. What we have is a quality job situation.
Sure.
And our economy is being driven by energy. And as a result, there's a skills gap, not an unemployment problem. And I think that's under-resourced because the educators can't provide jobs that the technical field needs. We
Sure.
have 2,000 open positions in the technical field right now that pay a ton of money. And our
Fair.
educators can't push out the talent that we need, so we leave.
Fair point. Diversification has been one of Oklahoma's, and specifically the Oklahoma legislature and governors, all the way from Brett Henry to Governor Fallon, their specific focus. I mean, we've seen tremendous growth in aerospace. We've seen tremendous growth in other types of sectors, defense and technological jobs, healthcare, and the research side of healthcare. We've seen that down in OU. I do want to point out the fact that for the first time for a long time, I believe the last time was in the 80s, we do actually eclipse the national average in terms of unemployment. So there is not an unemployment problem, but Oklahoma is starting to see the effects of what has occurred from an energy price perspective. And I think that is affecting the overall, but your point is well taken in terms of diversification. And that's one of the things that the chamber has focused on. Now I'm getting over onto my other job, is making sure that jobs do come to our state, that they're in many, many different sectors. That is part of my job as working at the state chamber. And Fred has really, our president and CEO has really tasked us with trying to make sure that Oklahoma is poised and ready to diversify as well.